Welcome, I'm Bev Adams. I own an independent paper crafting business showcasing Stampin' Up! Products. I sell the products used in the projects as well as a few additional products to help paper crafters stay organized. This is the project I'm showing today. It's got a fun fold. One of the fun things about this card is you can set it on a table and it stands up. You can write on this section up here, and if you pull it way up you can write a little bit up here as well as on the back. You can probably hear my voice is awfully froggy today, so maybe this is the perfect project for today. I'm using the So Hoppy Together stamp set. This is one of the products that you can get free through March 31st with a $50 order. This year, Stampin' Up! Has introduced some coordinating products. This is something you will purchase, but it coordinates with the free stamp set, and so we'll be using that. I'll be using the layering circles framelits, the rectangle stitched framelits. Our ink is Granny Apple Green Stampin' Blends, the Smoky Slate Stampin' Blends. I may need the color lifter, and we'll also be using Wink of Stella, the 3/4 inch circle punch, and the detailed trio punch. As I talk about the layering circles framelits and the rectangle stitch framelits, I will be using my taggers to describe those shapes. You can get the taggers from my website, but if you don't have them, I count from the largest to the smallest. My cardstock is a card base, either a 5.5 by 4.25 inch piece, and this is actually the one I'll be using. You could use instead a 4.25 by 11 and have a card that actually opens up as well. I'll have a layer that's 5.25 by 4 of the Granny Apple Green. This piece is 3 by 4.5. And I have a scrap. I have a piece of Whisper White, and I am using the thick Whisper White. This is also 5.25 by 4, and a scrap of Whisper White. I think that this same size will be enough. I have a 6-inch piece of Granny Apple Green ribbons and a piece of window sheet. I'm starting with the larger mosquito, and I'm just kind of randomly stamping on this page, stamping off the edge, turning, and then there's these smaller funny looking bugs, and also stamping them randomly. And bringing in my Wink of Stella, and I'm just quickly coloring in the mosquito's wings. This adds lovely sparkle. I love Wink of Stella. I use Wink of Stella on a lot of cards, so if you don't already have this, this is one of those products that you just have to have. I'm going to stamp a frog on the unicycle 3 times on this Whisper White scrap. I don't know what I was thinking. I only need to stamp it 1 time, but I will be cutting out 3 of those. And I also wanted to stamp these little bugs here. Bringing in my Big Shot and those hop around framelits. I am going to cut out those bugs, and they are so small that I want to be sure that that doesn't move around. So I'm going to use the little sticky note tabs. Then I'm also going to cut out some frogs on the unicycle. These little bugs are so small, don't lose them. Because of the video, I'm cutting it out now, but if I were just making one card, I might want to leave that on there before I cut it out, because it'll be easier, because we're going to color that frog. While I have the big shot out, I want to get out that window sheet, and I want to use the number 8 smooth. And I want to be sure and leave a little bit of space around there. And then I'm going to use the number 7 smooth right around that. So having that smaller circle cut out, it's pretty easy to center that on there. And that gives me a ring. Next I'm going to use the number 4 rectangle stitched framelit. I'm placing my top plate so it's about 1/4 of an inch away from the edge of the framelit so that it doesn't cut that last little bit. So that leaves a flap, and I love that the stitching shows on both sides of the cut. Bringing in my trimmer to do a little bit of scoring. I'm going to score at the top, and depending on where you get that framelit and the top plate placed, you just want to score at the top of that. Then I want to score again about 1/2 inch from the bottom of this flap, again between the cutting lines, and then about halfway. And honestly, I'm just kind of eyeballing it, so right about there. You can measure it out and do all the math if you want, but I found if I just kind of guess, pretty close to the halfway mark there. So this one will fold up, this one will fold down, and this one goes this way. I gave you the wrong dimensions for the thick whisper white. It actually needs to be smaller than this, so it's 3 3/4 by 5. And I want to kind of temporarily place this behind. That's why we needed it a little bit smaller. And I just want to mark lightly with pencil where that edge will be so I can stamp my other frog here. And I'm using You Can Do Anything. And we want to color our frogs. So I'm using the lighter first, and I'm just kind of filling in this whole section, one frog at a time so it doesn't dry out. The nice thing about the Stampin' Blends is that they are alcohol based, so they do dry quickly. But the bad thing about the Stampin' Blends is that they dry quickly, so you do want to keep the caps on when you're not using them, and do a fairly small area at a time. Switching over to the dark one, using the bullet tip, and I want to kind of make him a little bit rounder. So I'm coloring around, especially on one side of the body and underneath. And I'm also going to be making this the back legs that are behind his body a little bit darker. Then coming back with the light blend and drawing little circles to mix up or blend in these ink colors together. And kind of bringing that across. And this should pretty much eliminate the separation between colors. There should not be a line. Coloring my other frog, I'm going to use the brush tip for this guy because there's more space here. And don't press down or you'll break down the tip. The nice thing about the Stampin' Blends though is that they do come one at a time or together as a set with the dark and light together. Coming back with the dark one and coloring under his lip, and again the back legs, the ones that are kind of behind the body, and around the round parts. Switching back to the lighter one and blending that. And I'm just using the light smoky slate for the bicycle seat and pedals and for the tire. And I'm going to go ahead and erase my pencil lines. Bringing back in this piece, I'm going to put tear and tape on the sides and bottom, and I want to go as far to the outside as possible. The very, very edges. I do not want to put any across the top. I also want to prepare this piece that's going to be our pull. So I'm bringing in the detailed trio punch. I'm going to use this punch for my ribbon, and so I'm just centering it in here and pressing in the middle of the triangle. Then on that same end, I'm going to use both of these corner punches. I'll show you what they look like separately. This one's a little harder to punch. That's what they look like separately. But you can also do both. That's what we're doing here. Then I'm going to put my ribbon in, so I'm just folding it in half and pushing it through top to bottom and reaching through and pulling it. Now you don't want to just pull because you could tear that hole out. So I'm just lifting this up to make this loop a little tighter. I want to bring it pretty much down to the top of the cardstock. And that will be our little pull tab. Then we'll need a piece of 1/2 inch copy paper. Got some adhesive on the end, and then we're going to wrap this around very loosely. Not tight at all. In fact, I've got probably almost 1/4 inch extra here. Slide that on, and we're going to add some adhesive because we're going to stick this to the top here, right above that crease, and some adhesive on the top so I can tear up my backing. And I want to make sure that my frog is going to be facing the front, and so center this on here. Take the 3/4 inch punch and just punch a little half circle. And then we're going to adhere this to the card base. You can use either the single layer or the card base, either one. And we can put plenty of adhesive on the back of here. Not anything up above this. We don't want to have any adhesive up here though. Then we want to slide this piece in through that loop and all the way in as far as it will go. If you don't get it all the way down to the bottom, that's okay. Add another piece of tear and tape on this flap end of at the fold. And I have a little bit that went over the edge, so I want to make sure and bring that in. And then I'm going to adhere this. So then this will open and close. I forgot my lily pad, so I'm bringing the Big Shot back. I guess I'm not really running on all cylinders with my froggy voice. I think that scrap is big enough. And I'm bringing in my Stampin' Pierce mat and my Take Your Pick tool. I almost always have these two in my Take Your Pick tool, but it also has embossing tips. So I'm just going to add a few little score lines on here just to make it look a little bit more realistic here. And I am all ready to assemble my card. So the first thing I need to do is glue all my frogs together. And I think that the liquid glue is probably the better choice there. Because then you can wiggle them around to be a perfect match. I'm adding a little bit of adhesive here and using that ring, and my ring was not centered, so I'm going to put the smaller ends at the top and the bigger end at the bottom and have it so it meets that frog's hands. And then add more adhesive. And put the third frog on top of that. So this will be nice and thick so it stands up. And switching back to my piercing tool, because I think this may be one of the best tools for getting these glue dots off. I want to actually roll the glue dots and put one right by the frog's hand and put one of my little bugs there. Roll another glue dot and put one right at the top, trying to get it right over the ring and not off the edge. And roll another one for my third bug. If you're worried about any extra adhesive back here, you can dust it with your embossing buddy and that will get rid of any adhesive. I'm putting one dimensional at the unicycle and put the frog, I'm putting them on the right side here. I want to have that wheel right above the score line. And I think I want to use little mini dimensionals so that that doesn't show. And I want to put my lily pad between the score line and the bottom. And that's it. You can do anything.
Here's the link for the free directions, and I sell the Stampin' Up! Products you've seen in this video. Just click the links for the products you'd like to purchase, and you'll be taken to my online store at Stampin' Up! You'll also find lots of free resources as well as a few additional products to help crafters stay organized. More organization means more time for crafting. I lead a team of other crafters. The team is called Sit Together, and it stands for Stamp, Ink, and Paper Together. The team is made of crafters who want to save money on the products they buy, share with a few friends, or to grow a business like mine. If you're interested in attending a class here in Ventura County, learning more about creating beautiful handmade projects, purchasing products, or joining my Sip Together team, please email me or visit my website at bevadams.com. Whether we sip water, coffee, tea, or wine, the important thing is to put stamps, ink, and paper together and do something creative.